Welcome back to the Blueprints of Success interview series, providing unique blueprints, tactical knowledge, and best practices to navigate the critical points in the elite sports ecosystem, making a change today so athletes and parents can prepare a plan and a career path that any athlete can bank on. So like I said, stepping outside of the scope today, outside of the football world, and our guest today is a professional soccer player and founder of a financial literacy company, a Frugal Athlete. Getting drafted out of his freshman year at UCLA into the Major League Soccer as a part of the 2010 generation Adidas class, he amassed over 200 appearances in all competitions professionally and honored to represent the United States national team and program at various youth levels, including the 2012 Olympic squad. Born in Hayward, California, to Nigerian immigrants, oldest of 4 siblings, he holds a master in sports law in addition to a bachelor's degree in organizational leadership and development with a minor in business administration. Man, 30 for 30, Forbes 30 for 30, 30 under 30, class of 2021. Let's welcome Amobi Okugo, man. Welcome, man.
Thank you so much. How you feeling? I love that intro. Appreciate you.
Man, no doubt, man. I got to get some context. So like when we've been taking the journey through success or the blueprints of success, got to understand, a little context of where we're going about. So like I said, this is an exciting episode for me, just stepping outside of my comfort zone a little bit, kind of second nature with football, asking questions and like kind of the different things. So you might have to school me a little bit about everything from the soccer perspective. What advice would you give your 15-year-old self to prepare for the elite athlete journey in the sports sphere?
Oh, that's a great one to start off. I say what I would tell my 15-year-old self to prepare for the journey ahead is double down. If you think you're working hard, you got to work twice as harder, because if you think about it from a overview standpoint, you're only excellence through exposure. So you're only focused on like, all right, I need to be the best on my team. But there's someone I was in California, there's someone in Florida. Then if you expand out, soccer is the global game. There's someone in Argentina. There's someone in Nigeria. There's someone in England. So it's like, it doesn't matter what you're doing. There's always someone that is potentially looking to take your spot. So double down on, the sacrifices that it's going to take, the discipline that it's going to take, the focus that it's going to take, the extra work, and, really just double down.
I love that, man. Double down. And you brought up an interesting point when you said soccer is a global game. Cause growing up, I used to always think the same thing, right? Like, all right, I'm working hard, but I was I had percentages, and I used to, until you said, I started thinking about players in Argentina. I would just think about United States. I'm like, all right, don't think about this city. Don't think about this coast. Don't think about this region. But I didn't leave the United States. That's a different mentality when you're thinking all right, I'm going against people across and the whole world, right? Like an international game. So that's amazing. Just double down, especially from a standpoint of sports and soccer, where it's a high skill thing, and just always refining those skills. So we jump into the recruiting process, man. You can school me a little bit about the differences in football and soccer. Because I know, when I was training in Dallas, we trained with the Manchester United junior team, 13, 14-year-old guys that were signed and different stuff like that. How was your recruiting process in soccer?
So mine was very unique. I had the fortunate opportunity to go to the residency program, which is essentially the U17 men's national team program, where we locate and reside in Bradenton, Florida, and then use IMG Academy's facilities to train, eat, sleep, everything soccer. It was essentially boarding school for the U17 men's national team. So after I spent time there, my recruiting process got a lot easier, where schools were reaching out to me instead of me having to do the visits and, the applications and different things like that. So I was very, very fortunate. For me and my parents decided that I was going to stay in California. So that kind of made a funnel for the schools that I was going to reach, going to be talking to or negotiating with about where I was going to play collegiate soccer. And from there, it was, trying to find the best fit for me. So I visited the 4 schools that I was thinking about. At the time, it was Cal Berkeley, Stanford, Santa Clara, and UCLA. And then from there, based on my school, trying to figure out the credentials that I need, or the certificate, not the certifications, but the application requirements that I would need to make sure that when I do work out my verbal commitment or my actual commitment, that I was going to be in good standing, to make sure, because you can commit but still not get accepted to the school. So making sure everything was situated on my end, had to take the SAT scores and do all the stuff that I needed to do, and then kind of go from there. And then I am eventually committed to UCLA, and the process was done.
That's awesome, man. That's crazy that you say that, where it's you can commit to a school and get an offer and still not get accepted. That happens very, very rarely in football, right? If
Yeah.
they offer you, you get in. Some strings can be pulled unless you're just like a terrible student. But the schools
Yeah.
that you named, I can definitely see that. Stanford, Cal Berkeley, and UCLA. So you say like you said you got separated like down in Bradenton with the national team. Would you say that soccer does a good job like separating like elite players at a young age?
They do a pretty good job. The United States is so big, so it's not like you're going to be able to get the exact top 40 kids
Okay.
on a day-to-day basis. And then also everyone develops at different times. So you could be the top player freshman year, but by the time senior year rolls around, there's a whole plethora of new guys that have, whether they developed physically, whether they just, had a nice little development phase in terms of form and technique. So it's always constantly changing. But in terms of like the mean, the mean of talent, across the board, they tend to do a pretty good job of identifying talent early on, saying that they have you know, a high probability of taking it to the next level. And then after that, it's, kind of the mental aspect and the things that they
Yeah.
do off the field.
That's amazing. So what is it that they see at such a young age? Because right, you hear about football players getting offers at a young age, and there's so many things to do with like just size, speed, and just
Yeah.
natural things that come with it. But like the skilled players, like you see guys getting signed across seasons at 14, 15, like you said, get put into an elite program. Is it because it's such a skill based sport, or like how are they separating guys at such a young age?
No, that's a great question. I think it's a combination of things. Well, specifically in soccer, yeah, the physical attributes matter, speed and agility matter, but it's how you process the game that matters the most. So if you're able to process the game at that young age and like kind of handle the speed of play and like the game kind of moves slow for you. So if you look at the top guys across different sports, when they talk about like the Tom Brady or the Michael Jordans of the world, they're like, yo, the game's going 100 miles per hour, but in their heads it's going like 10 miles per hour because they're just able to process where things are happening, how things are happening, where plays are going to go, and be able to read plays. So from a soccer standpoint, at a young age when, whether it's college coaches or scouts or professional teams are scouting these young guys at 13, 14, 15 years old, they're able to see like, all right, this guy gets it. He's able to see 5 steps ahead. A good player can see 2 steps ahead, but the great players are like 5, 7, 10 steps ahead. They can pick out patterns before it even happens. They know how to get themselves out of different difficult situations on the field. And even if they're not ready from a physical standpoint, like they may not be big, they may get pushed off the ball, they may not be as fast. Um, they're able to still perform at a high level because of the way they, position themselves, the way they're able to, get out of pressure, different things like that.
That's an amazing like juxtaposition when you think of like AAU basketball and you see guys coming out and it's the people that it's a game where it's more street ball, right? Where you talk about less technique, less passes or things like that. But like that's the area in basketball or 7-on-7 in football where guys are getting identified at an early age. But you're saying in soccer, it's kind of like it's the knowledge of the game. Like you're kind of being judged on your soccer acumen to an extent. That's kind of inverse from like the basketball and football. Interesting to hear you say that and how they identify. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, it's how they identify, like how they identify like the different players.
Yeah, it's almost like Jokic. He just won MVP. Like if you drafted him, you're like, and then he gets on the court, and it's like all his skill work allows him to translate and be very successful. I don't want to liken it to soccer from the standpoint of like, all right, you can't judge a book by its cover, but skill and like how you're able to read the game matters a lot more in soccer.
I would agree with you. We talk about international basketball players. You bring up Jokic, you bring up my man down with the Mavericks, and like just like their level of basketball acumen coming from international. We talk about soccer being an international game. I mean, just kind of based on skill and technique or game planning being more of the predominating critical factor of success, right? When you think of football, basketball. You got freaks or sometimes just physics can't really help you. Right? Like, it's a
speed kills sometimes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So with that being said, like, I guess, how did you know it was serious? Like when you were getting selected to go to school in Bradenton, or when you got selected to go down to Bradenton, were you already in the mentality of like, man, soccer is what I want to do. I want to take this thing serious. Or was it kind of, you just kind of going through the steps?
So it wasn't until Yeah, it wasn't until I got invited to like the U14 national team that was like the very first inaugural national team camps where it's like, oh, okay, like now I'm starting to realize like this is a potential opportunity. People are starting to like notice me. And then once I got invited to residency, that was like the game changer for me.
Okay.
Just because of like the talent that's been there before. Like it's almost like the success rate of like if you go to Harvard, then you'll be able to, whatever, be more successful. That's kind of how it was in residency. It was kind of like a springboard to, for sure get a college opportunity. And then from there, the rest is yours, like how you take advantage of the opportunity. So once that happened, I knew that I could touch it, and like being able to touch it gives you like that extra motivation of doing the extra work that you need to do to hopefully achieve that dream or like actually grab that thing that you have in front of you.
Right.
But growing up, it was more like, all right, maybe you could possibly get a college scholarship. Obviously, you're going to stay active. You're going to build some relationships, build some friendships. But outside of that, it wasn't until residency that things really kicked off.
So residency. Okay, so it's like getting selected into that special group, almost like when guys transition to IMG, for example.
Exactly.
Like if they get recruited down, it's like, all right, in the big leagues now. So with that being said, what drew you to soccer over the more frequent sports growing up in California, right? Like football and basketball, baseball per se.
Oh, well, I'm first generation Nigerian American, so my parents played, my uncles played. It like I grew up. I was born in '91, so '94 you had the U.S. Olympics. Nigeria was in it. You had the '96. You had the '94 World Cup. Nigeria was in it. You had the '96 Olympics. Nigeria won it. So growing up, even though I was like very very young, I could just recall, watching the games, having them on the VHS tapes, and yeah, soccer was for sure going to be the first sport, and then everything after that. Uh, I played basketball, I played football, I played volleyball, even did track for like a week, but soccer and basketball was the main drivers.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's great. Because like you talk about that, I mean, soccer's a fun sport, man. I know one off season of football, we had a strength coach that was like put out a soccer ball to help us with our footwork. And man,
Oh
we
yeah,
said, like,
smart.
have fun with that soccer ball. I used to, at Penn State running around like these guys doing these campus runs, man. That's the only thing that kept me away from soccer was just the running. Like I was just like,
Long distance running, right?
long distance running. But we talk about the speed, skill, and all that. The more I
Yeah,
learned and got older, I'm like, hey, there's a sport over here. We can kind of whatever. We'll talk about that later.
most definitely.
Nah, so did you feel like, I mean, going into the residency, did you feel like the recruiting process like accelerated your maturation process?
Oh yeah, most definitely, most
Okay.
definitely. Like because you can't get handhold, like can't get coddled. Like you have to take a proactive approach. Like if you really want to go to the school, you're gonna have to be the one that's talking to your counselors, talking to your teachers, making sure you got all the things for your application. And your parents can only do so much. And especially specifically with college, not even to talk about the pros, they want to be able to count on you because you're going to be at school by yourself. Your parents not going to be able to go to class for you. They're not going to drop you off. You kind of have to take the initiative. So taking the initiative with the recruiting process, obviously you need to have expertise and insight, but also showing the coaches or the staff that you're able to do that and like kind of take care of yourself. Definitely prepared me.
Oh, that's like amazing because you just talk about all these different sports, and it's about when you talk about capitalizing in a sport, regardless, like when there's cash at the end, it's like it's a very intentional journey, right? Like you talk about
Exactly.
being mature, emotionally, intellectually in the game, being able to trust your parents, be able to trust you, and all those different things. Did you personally feel emotionally prepared?
Yes, just
Yeah.
because of residency. Like
Okay,
I had to, I was living in on my own when I was 15.
but
You
that's what
know,
I'm saying. So residency is Florida, right?
yeah, Florida.
Yep, got you. So
Yeah,
like, yeah, I mean, are you ready to live by yourself at 15?
yeah. So, but the thing is, like, because it was like we were with a bunch of other kids in the situation. Like, not only obviously residency, we were the top 40 kids playing soccer, but under the whole ecosystem with IMG Academy, you had players that did tennis, you had golf, you had a bunch of whether they're elite athletes or athletes of very very well off parents that sent them to the school. But we were all like kind of in a situation like we're on our own. Obviously, we have like chaperones and counselors and staff and all that, but we're all here for the same purpose. So it made it a little bit easier instead of just like where you imagine like young guys going over to Europe and like trying out for a team by themselves. It was a little bit different because you kind of had to share the journey with other people similar to your situation.
That's amazing, like insight there. And when we talk about that, this might, I mean, I don't think it's off base, but like what was like the ratio of like black to white players when you were down there in terms of on your team?
On our team, that's a good question. I would probably say if there's like 40, 50 people, with the like 12 to 18.
12 to
so
18?
It wasn't like too, yeah.
Were most of
It
those?
wasn't too bad.
No,
it was pretty diverse. It was pretty diverse. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
Yeah,
And were most of the kids like you, kids of immigrants, or were they Americans?
We had a couple first generation African Americans, like parents immigrated from Africa. Then you had a good amount. I would say of like the 12 to 18, I would say 65% were first generation African Americans, where their parents came from Africa, whether it's Nigeria, Ghana, Congo, whatever. Yeah. And then the rest remaining were Black African Americans, like,
Was there a place in the States where they were coming from, like the ones that were American, or just all over?
Nah, all over. I know in terms of like hotbeds, Florida, Texas have a high ratio of soccer players that play, even though those are both football states as well. But
right.
We did have a lot of players from Florida and Texas, but all over. Talent's going to be everywhere.
Gotcha. That's interesting, y'all. You guys hear that, man? Talent is everywhere. So just keep going. Especially he's going with the mindset of playing against the world. So, you got to have that mentality. You know what I mean? So when you're at the residency and different things like that, how informed did you feel about choosing your schools? Like, it seems like your top choices had that academic spin on it, but like, how informed did you feel?
So from a residency perspective, not well informed, so luckily my parents were like, we're going to narrow it down. You've been away. We're going to make sure you stay close to home. So all these schools that are reaching out, like, that's good, but we're staying in California. So that kind of helped the process. And I think with any young athlete, you have a process, whether it's like, all right, if for football, I want to be in SEC. All right, do I want to be in SEC North or SEC South? I'm not even sure if that's how the categorization goes.
East-West.
But it was East-West?
Yeah.
SEC East, SEC West. But like trying to figure out, all right, what conference do I want to play in? What coach do I want to play for? What type of system am I playing for? Does the team I'm going to have a lot of like freshmen and sophomores, or do they have juniors and seniors? That's the difference between, all right, am I possibly going to have to redshirt, or am I possibly going to have a better chance of playing? Different things like that. I'm not even talking about the education side. Like, does the school have my major? Does it have, if I want to be in a, fraternity, does it have a fraternity that I'm passionate about potentially stepping in? How are the counselors? These are all questions that you have to have, all questions you have to consider. But the first one is like, where do I want to play? And for me, it was in California, staying close to home. Obviously, I chose UCLA, so it was like the farthest but the closest school at the same time. But just trying to figure out that, and then kind of going from there. And then especially now, I know we probably touched on it with NIL taking charge. All right, what school, because the school can't really do deals for you, but what school is going to help you from an educational, informational standpoint to maximize your NIL opportunities? So these are different things that I had to consider, but obviously now it's even a whole different ballgame with the amount of resources being poured into collegiate sports.
Man, very well said, dog. So when you say you decided to go to UCLA, was it only because it was the furthest away from home, or like what did you base that? What did you base that decision on? Because like Stanford, Cal, UCLA, man, those are good schools.
No, so great question. So UCLA for me was the best of both worlds in terms of
Westwood.
The education, they value it. It's like top 5 public university year after year, but also from a standpoint of sports, they do a great job. Top talent has come there year in, year out. Living in LA, just the network, and you go on campus. The one thing the coach said, if you don't want to go to UCLA, just don't go on an official visit, because once you get on campus, it's game over.
It's over.
It's over for you. So like location, just the vibes, education, it was like the best of both worlds. And I consider myself like a jack of all trades. And UCLA is like what I consider like the school where it's a jack of all trades. Obviously, Stanford, Cal, any school is good if you make the use of it. But for me, at that time, UCLA was a choice, and I probably would do it 10 times over.
I love that, man. 'Cause you say that because I was out in UCLA, standing around on the campus, like
Yeah.
right on Wilshire, and like walking around through there. And I was thinking, like, man, there's no way I could have been in college and like this was just right here walking around. Like, there's no way. Like, I just would have made
So
it.
how you
Like,
supposed to stay focused?
that's my whole thing, man. You're focused. So I knew coming in, I was like, I put me in the middle of nowhere. Put me in state college, man. Oh, that's great. Were you thinking about your, like, I mean, you say you're a jack of all trades, but were you thinking about your post soccer career when you decided to go to UCLA?
Yeah, so that definitely played a role. Like if I was going to be here all 4 years, I would definitely want to be in UCLA.
Okay.
Just from the network standpoint, and then just the opportunity from a sports business perspective, entertainment. LA in general, but UCLA, I feel like it's just like the springboard for everything that I wanted to do, and I'm fortunately doing now.
Top tier dichotomy of everything that you're looking for. Like
Yeah.
that is top notch when you're thinking about that. How are the visits in soccer? Like, I mean, I know in football you take 5, kind of wild over the weekends. That whole.
Yeah.
Is it the exact same in soccer? Or
Yeah, it's similar. You're able to get 5 official visits, and then usually spend a weekend, time in with the home game, and then one of the either like the senior, not the seniors, but one of the you know current players on the team will show you around for the weekend. Usually, it's the popular kid on the team or the kid with um, some good resources, whether through his parents or just,
yeah.
and they show you a good time, hopefully convince you on the benefits of going to the school and butter you up a little bit in terms of, why you need to go here, your top talent, and then, the rest is history.
Gotcha. So the talent acquisition process is still the same, trying to get you to connect,
Yeah,
get good players that like-minded around you, feel like it's home. They already had you, man, with all the other stuff going on. It's not hard at
exactly.
UCLA. I got a lot of friends out here that get out there and was like, man, I was about to commit on the spot. So we talk about just finishing up on the recruiting process. What was one key takeaway that you would share with anyone to better equip themselves going through the recruiting process?
I would say you got to ask questions because they can tell you everything, but if you don't ask questions on your own personal, it's easy a coach is going to tell you what you want to hear, but if you come in asking questions, you can kind of like, I don't want to say like back them up into a situation, but you can get confirmation, oh, you said this, but I saw this, and then ask them. And how, depending on how people answer, and you're going to get the real response that you want.
I think that's a great answer because especially when we just talking about like the business of sports being shifted
Yeah,
down with NIL and like how you need to approach it. Everybody's saying like guys get to pay, you're a business, you're this, and like the part of handling your business is asking the tough questions, going over
yeah,
your stuff the right way. And I look at the letter of intent. I mean, the letter of intent's a piece of crap in business, but like in college, it's the letter of the law. So that's like your contract. So when you're going to school and you're like looking to see before you sign that paper for the next 3 to 4 years, man, ask the tough questions. Make sure that you're navigating the waters with information so you're not making emotional decisions because it is
facts.
a 30, 40-year decision, not 3, 4 emotional on a visit. So that's a great insight there. So you end up getting drafted after the first year at UCLA. We got a one and done here. You know what I mean? So how was that transition like to college soccer from coming from the residency?
So it was great. I had the fortunate pleasure of playing at a high level at a young age. So the adjustment wasn't too much. It was more on the school side, like having to wake up. I made the mistake of signing up for an 8 a.m. class early, thinking I was like, oh yeah, it's like regular school. Yeah, you just show up. And I was like, oh wow, yeah, wow, it's early. But you adjust, and then being able to kind of be self sufficient and self motivating and self discipline, I think was helpful because I had the homework and had the preparation through residency and just being on the youth national teams. So for me, I think that helped my transition, and which led me to have like a pretty good freshman year. Other than that, it's easy to get distracted. A lot of players, like a lot of top players, they go to college in that first year, they struggle, and it takes them a long time to adjust. And sometimes people don't adjust and they end up like, oh, whatever happened to this guy? Whatever happened to that gal? It's because, they couldn't handle the balance of, it's school, sports, social, personal development, all the things that you need to consider, to succeed at that high level. But, for me, it was a great adjustment. And then once I made the next jump to pro, it was a whole completely different adjustment, which, was an adjustment within itself, but it was a beneficial one as well.
Yeah, it sounded like you were prepared for it because, like, I like when I talk about just transitions, like really leaning into them and being prepared. Like, I went to college early in January, trying to get a spring ball underneath me. So, like, when it was time to come, like you said, I had a goal of playing as a freshman. So I was like trying to work, manufacture success backwards. Like, all right, I need to get there early to get there. I'm gonna play both sides of the ball. Like, and getting there through that transition is just a big piece. Did you have a welcome to Pac-12 moment?
Uh, that's a great question. And welcome to the Pac-12 moment. But what I will say before that is, though, I love how I didn't realize why football players did that, and I think other sports need to incorporate that going to school a semester early. I think it's
Oh, okay.
uh, a different. I think it's a different philosophy that needs to be definitely implemented across the board. When it comes to the welcome to the Pac-12 moment, I think it would probably be um, college like alumni day, because that was like the day we did our hazing thing too.
Okay.
And I know we can't touch too much into that, but it
No, it's
was
cool. We
interesting.
out of school.
Yeah, it was interesting because like the history behind this program that you're representing, like it was cool to have all the people come back and represent the school. So like understanding that it's kind of bigger than you from the standpoint of like you're not only representing yourself but your community, your school, and this is a legacy that you're part of this family forever. No matter if you play just your freshman year, if you play all 4 years, if you win a title, if you don't, you're part of that legacy. But then also like adjusting to your personal values versus the values of a team, especially when it comes to the social setting. There's been guys that, you know, feel like they're alienating themselves because they may not do certain things, like whether it's partying, different things like that. But if you look at it from a standpoint of like standing up for yourself and making sure that you like express your thoughts within the group, they're gonna respect you. And if they don't, then that's their fault. So that was like my welcome to Pac-12 moment.
That's pretty cool. I like that aspect of like this legacy silos, right? You go to these
Yeah,
schools and like you're about to be a part of a group that's there's a long history of people before you. There's going to be a long track record of people after you, and just making sure, not even making sure, but like to have that connectivity throughout to get the benefit of going to college, right? Because like that's like your
exactly.
nucleus, whether it's business connections and different things like that. That's one of the biggest largest benefits when I think of the NIL and just like these legacy silos that can be created. Like started something at Penn State, locked down you with the DBs, trying to create that thing within a
I love
position.
that.
Football is a little bit more vast across different positions, different personalities, linemen, the DBs, whatever.
Yeah.
But same aspect because it's powerful. So we get
I
back
like that.
to yourself, entrepreneur like yourself in college. Everything's talking about NIL nowadays. What would have been your strategy? You're in college right now.
Whew. I'm like, I wish I could like go back in time. UCLA NIL? Oh
Let me
wow.
hear it. Give them some
Yeah.
game, man. These
Now I
cats
would have been
leaving some
doing. I would
coin
have.
on the
Yeah.
table.
I would have been doing like I might have stayed all 4 years if that was the case. To be honest, I would have been doing camps. Sometimes it's all about location and being in Westwood, near Beverly Hills, near affluent neighborhoods, being able to share my experience as a youth men's international player playing at a high level at UCLA, being able to do camps to affluent parents' kids, something simple, and then hopefully eventually build out a digital program so I don't have to be outside every day. Yeah, that would have been yeah, I would have been a game changer.
No, that's great. No, that's great. I mean, that's a good answer. I mean,
Yeah,
just getting straight to it when you just talk about like the camps, right? Where the guys are going around,
yeah,
that there's players that are trying to get to college and different things like that. I always like the merch ideas too, when you're just trying to get into those ecosystems where people are
yeah,
supporting the university. It's like, hey, just the same type of shirt and all this goes here. But
yeah.
no, I mean, I love it though. The camp stuff. Sean Clifford at Penn State, I think he had a quarterback app, and he's actually started his own NIL group called Limitless. Shout out to
Oh yeah, I saw
Sean
that. Shout
Clifford
out to
as
him.
a starting
He's
quarterback.
taking a real proactive approach. I love that.
Absolutely, man. So you talk about getting drafted, man. What's the process of getting drafted in soccer?
Yeah, it's a little bit different because, soccer is unique in the fact that from a global perspective, you have players signing in South America or Europe or Africa, wherever, at 14, 15 years old. And like, while you could do that here now in the States, it's a little bit different because we have the college system. So there's a draft every year. Usually it's held for seniors. They'll get invited to a combine. From there, interview, combine prep, and then you get drafted. But because there are now initiatives to entice younger players to go out in the draft early, there's a Generation Adidas system which is what I signed. It's like basically they increase your salary and they have a reimbursement for school to, allow you to leave early and not feel bad about it. And then you have like the MLS academies that have homegrown contracts and stuff like that. So the draft is really unique, but from the standpoint of like how you can compare it to like an NBA or NFL, it's similar. It's just that there's no restrictions in the sense of like, all right, if I go to college, I have to wait 3 years, like in the NFL, or I have to either go pro as a senior in high school, or I have to go after my junior year, like in baseball. It's almost kind of like similar to NBA, where you can kind of go one and done. You can kind of go whenever. You can do academy. So there's a number of different mechanisms. But from the standpoint of being a senior, it's hopefully you do well, you get invited to the combine, and then you get drafted from there.
So that was my next question: was the talent evaluation like protocol? There is a combine.
Yeah, so the combine is based, and it's tough because it's soccer, right? You can't really. It's not like you're gonna do passing drills. So they have like about 3 to 5 games throughout the combine, and it's basically like rotating different players. It's almost like a basketball thing where you're doing like pickup games, and you just like people are
like
seeing each other,
just running and just seeing what it is.
Exactly, and then throughout the duration of the combine, they do like different tests like speed and agility, and then you'll also do like interview prep with different coaches that may be interested. But it's not like you're doing the Wonderlic test or anything like that.
Now, is there any prep for that? Like, like there's, a big thing in the football industry is draft prep, right? These gyms are making $20,000 a head for, getting guys ready to sign their big contracts. Is there any type of situation in soccer?
No, not really. And that is a good business that maybe we have to talk about offline. But it's just from the standpoint of soccer, they're doing so much research from before. Like, while they're 13, they have like, all right, he played for this club. We've been seeing him. He's been a part of the MLS Academy. Now he's playing here. We've been watching his games throughout the season. And then off season, everyone's so like dispersed. And there's kind of different things that you can do from a soccer training perspective that isn't really conducive pre-draft. There's only so much you can do.
Gotcha.
It's like, make sure you stay fit, make sure you're not injured, and make sure you perform well. Because the draft, it's not like, all right, if you don't get a 40 time, then you're going to drop 10 spots. It's basically, if you play well, you're good, and it just confirms what we already know.
Man, I know football players don't get excited now. You guys, if you guys want that, go play soccer, because in football, they want to look at those numbers sometimes. But that's interesting, man, when you say that, because it's like it gets back to the critical factors at the beginning when they're identifying soccer players young, and it's like their soccer acumen or how they maneuver throughout the game. And I mean, athletic ability kind of picks up, but we always talk about football players that play fast typically know what's going on. You know what I mean? So you can have a fast player and play slow because they're second guessing or they're slow processors or whatever that may be. Did you always have an interest in like finance and business, like going into Major League Soccer and that whole situation? I always kind of look at it where people that have an interest in business, they kind of move a little different once they become a professional.
Yeah, so for me, I studied business econ at UCLA, and then ended up finishing with my minor in business administration, major in organizational leadership. So I was always interested in business, just being able to see the sacrifices of my parents to put me in different situations growing up in California. Just intrigued by different business ventures or what people were doing from a business perspective.
Right.
And then once I came into my own money, it was like, oh yeah, I'm trying to make sure, because business can be forever. And the best thing about business is like, I want to say the best thing, but because it might be like a diminishing mindset, but you could be the 1,000th best business person in your city and be very, very successful. The 1,000th best, the 1,000th best soccer player and you're playing in like a Sunday men's league. So,
Yeah.
uh, business is endless possibilities and it's forever. Whereas sports, it's based on how long you can play, based on coaches, that likes you, GM that wants to pay you, all these different factors that you can't really control. Whereas business, obviously you got to provide a solution, but the endless possibilities of what business could provide.
100%. I completely agree. And I love that you put it that way, where it's just like, yeah, if you're the thousandth best business, like you're probably doing pretty well. But if you're the thousandth best football player,
Yeah.
it's like a big difference, man. Or soccer player, for that matter. So like,
Yeah.
I know when I was in the league, we used to get the like the Raw Report magazines, and it was always like the soccer players, right? Like, and we used to like, so for us in the NFL, we used to envy like the soccer players. 'Cause they had, whoever the big time soccer players
Yeah.
are. But it was, I mean, the cars, the cribs, like it was a different level of stuff. So like we never, like in our mind, you only see 30 for 30, and it's like football and all that good stuff. Did you feel like comfortable with your money? Is that like a thing that talks about in soccer, like, hey, financial literacy and things of that nature? Once you get to that level,
So yeah, they talked about it a little bit. We
a
had
little bit.
the standard like preseason financial seminars, but it wasn't as proactive as it is now. It has definitely like gone up. But soccer in the States is different from soccer on a global landscape.
Okay.
So that's kind of the biggest thing from that standpoint. But I always felt pretty comfortable. Obviously, there's always things that I needed to learn, but I was always frugal, so I didn't really spend money. So from that standpoint, I felt good. But it was interesting to see different players as I got older and signed new contracts. Like, they always say like income creep is a real thing, and like as you go up the ladder, there's different levels of money, and to be able to see it, like you think you're making money, but you're not really making money. Like, yeah, it was good to see and kind of learn a lot.
No, I would definitely second that, man. The worst thing I ever did in the league was asking one of, like, we had a franchise player one year. Let me see your check, man. Let me see that real quick. Hurt my feelings. I was like, man.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Like there's things that people were doing that I couldn't do, and it's like if I'm trying to keep up with them, oh, it's bad for me.
It's a
And
bad
I
ball,
just sometimes you
man.
have to learn the hard way.
No, so with that being said, what was your first major purchase after you got drafted or got some coin in your pocket?
My first major purchase, well, I didn't get a car until my second year. So I guess my first major purchase was putting my signing bonus into a CD account, and
Oh,
if that
word.
counts. Yeah, that was like good. That was like my best and worst decision. Because it was good in terms of not spending money and saving it and figuring out, but in terms of like return on investment, it's a CD. You don't really get much.
Right.
Uh, I bought a car. My first car was nice and simple, Honda Accord.
I got you.
Uh, but I think I got something from my family. Like we needed something. Like I don't even know. It wasn't nothing crazy.
Nothing crazy. So that's
Yeah,
what's up, man. You came in with the right mindset, like you said. Got the whip, got your
mm,
people straight. Like, frugal athlete. I mean, that's
exactly.
you started a company with that, so we'll get into that. But you talk about like the transitioning up, like how different was the speed, like the speed of the game, right? Like all these things are moving
Yeah.
around. Like actually on the field, how different was it once you got to the pros?
It wasn't too different, to be honest. Like obviously, there's just like a level of speed of play that increases, but it took me like a couple weeks to adjust. It's just like the intricate details off the field, like how to take care of your body to that next level, how to make sure that you're going to be ready for 2 a days at that next level. Because yeah, you can do it for a week, you can do it for a month, but can you do it year after year, day after day, on a consistent basis? And that's what the true adjustment was for me. I think the biggest thing was understanding that all right, some people are here to like put food on the table. It's not just like, oh, we're here, we're on the team, or we're trying to win the championship. It's like, no, this is my job. This is how I provide for my kids. Like, so if you're here to mess around and do this and do that, go somewhere else with that. Because after a loss, it's like, all right, I might get cut or I might lose my playing time. If I lose my playing time, I lose my bonus. If I lose my bonus, then I gotta, so that mindset versus like, all right, in college, we win, we celebrate, we lose, we celebrate by drowning our sorrows.
Right.
Nah, it's not like that at the pro level, which was eye opening to see, and it was good because I'm competitive So it was helpful to see it firsthand and like right off the bat.
Yeah, I definitely I agree. I'm going to keep drawing comparisons to football, but just like that was my most enjoyable time playing football was in the NFL. Like that
Yeah,
ultra competitive. There's never like coming up in football if you're not in top. It's like if you get beat, it's like, oh my God, but if you win, you're supposed to win, right? So it's like
yeah,
always, but you can get to the league, it's like you're playing best on best and everything, you're on the edge,
exactly.
like every time. And so I was like, I always like reveled and enjoyed that. I had injuries and stuff, but that was always the best when you talk about that. So we'll go into a quick LIG read, 1 second, like brief break. So this episode is brought to you by Blue Chip Academy. Does your son dream of playing college football at the highest level? Or maybe they just want to maximize their time playing sports? Are you giving them every chance to succeed? Don't be left in the dark with his future and during this critical part of his football career. That's where we come in. The Recruiting and Football Business Masterclass, a comprehensive course that walks you through the entire recruiting process and football ecosystem so you can help your son navigate the waters and identify the critical factors for making the right decision about his future. And his future is just as important as yours, as we'll show you how to make sure that your hard-earned money isn't wasted on programs that won't break him success. During this masterclass, you'll talk about how the student athletes are being evaluated, how to navigate the recruiting waters, how to navigate the new normal of college sports, the most common mistakes that are made by parents, the blueprints of success so that every chance you get, 9th through 12th grade, and making the income, making the jumps that you need to have. And 23 videos taught by me going through the complete ecosystem and NIL and everything that goes along with the process, just top to bottom, everything that you need to know about the recruiting process in football so that you can get into the captain seat and take advantage of this aspect of your career. Let's jump back into it. Yeah. So, man, I'm jumping back into this. Curious, do you still run around and play a little bit, like soccer?
Of course, yeah. I can't get rid of it. Yeah,
Oh, man. That's great. Like, I'm always jealous when, I see hoopers get done playing. It's like, I could just go play pickup. You can't really get done. You see some cats still
yeah.
trying to play flag football, or it's just not the same. Do you play in the league?
I play, yeah, in like a MPSL league. My old coach growing up, he had like he waited like a couple weeks. He's like, "Yo, I know you're done. You're back in town. You want to play?" I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I can't make it to all the games, but if I'm in town, count me in."
Count me in. So do soccer players really transition out of playing?
Nah, to be honest, not really, because you can always play. I think when you transition out, you're either over it or you've dealt with some injuries, but there's a chance to play. It's anything but the treadmill, being able to get out, run around, kick the ball. The worst thing that can happen, knock on wood, is getting injured by someone that is not at that level but wants to prove themselves. It's almost like playing pickup basketball, and you got the guy that thinks it's like the NBA Finals trying to dive on. Like, we're here to have fun, get a sweat, get some touches. We're not going to the World Cup.
Word. No, that's real. I was in Costa Rica during the World Cup, and we were on like an ATV ride, and I jumped off. I was like, I'm playing soccer, man. I thought I had some sweet feet. I'm like, oh, they do this all the time. It was like you just say, like, I'm about to get somebody hurt. And I hate when unathletic things happen on the field. If anybody knows football, offensive linemen fall, like, don't talk. I just don't like unathletic stuff. So I felt unathletic running around with them. So sometimes with soccer, I can see that playing pickup being a fear. So did you hear about any financial horror stories in professional sports, like in soccer?
In soccer, I mean, you hear some stories, that just go around the league and stuff like that. Nothing too crazy. I mean, the biggest ones were from the 30 for 30 Broke documentary that I listened and heard. But from a soccer perspective, it wasn't too crazy. I think because soccer in the States, we don't get compensated nearly as much as the other leagues. I think everyone has like a back in their mindset of, all right, I got to be smart and I got to understand that this is not going to last forever, and I'm going to have to do preparation to find a job after. Not to say that the transition's not just as hard, but, when you go into the mindset of like, all right, this isn't going to last me forever, you do know that you need to take steps to prepare for when the time comes.
No, that's definitely true. And I think it's interesting when we just talk about the transition process, and it seems like it was not easier for you, but it was like a little bit more like a roller coaster type, not roller coaster ride, but like a smoother transition because you could still kind of get that out, right? Like that juice to play. Because I hear football players and like, how's the transition? And it's just like, boom, you're hitting rock bottom. So like my next question was like during that transition process, how hard was it for you to feel like you had to transition from a soccer player to entrepreneur, right? Where people still saw you as like that athlete, because sometimes football players, you get kind of stuck in this thing where you have to
Yeah.
rebrand yourself a little bit.
No, you're exactly right. I think the best thing about my personal situation is that I started doing it while I was playing, so that when I was officially done, they were like, "Oh, okay, it's not surprising. He's already made those steps and those inroads to make sure that people can see him as, an athlete, entrepreneur, but now entrepreneur." I think a lot of times, like you said, people will try to pigeonhole us because, like, "Oh, I remember you. You was playing, Friday Night Lights, Sunday football, or you was playing Saturday soccer, and then now you're trying to do this." Like, all right, so now they're like, all right, what credentials do you have? I only know you as a soccer player. But I would say to any athlete, start planting those seeds while you're playing, so that when you're done, they're already harvested and they're already grown because of the inroads that you made while you were playing.
Yes, that's a great suggestion. Like just because and doors are open when you're typically a player. Like that's when people want
Exactly.
to talk to you. Like when you start transitioning out, and old coaches be like, can't really do
Yeah.
something for me. You get hit with that hard truth of like, all right, this was a mutually beneficial relationship, and I don't have that same value to you anymore. So get into it. Where did the inspiration for the Frugal Athlete come from? Or let's just talk about that a little bit. Yeah.
Nah, thank you. So I've always been interested in business and finance, but when I saw the 30 for 30 Broke documentary, it was like, all right, I want to find role models of athletes that I could use as inspiration for my own career. And as I did more research, I couldn't find any. It was athletes that were anomalies, like athletes that are going to be good no matter what. LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, Tom Brady, Serena Williams. So I did more research, and it was athletes that I was trying to avoid. Similar to the Broke documentary. This athlete lost a lot of money for that reason. This athlete, found themselves in this situation, and I was like, all right. I mean, you can only learn so much from scare tactics. So I wanted to find positive roadmaps of athletes, and I've always been pretty frugal. I mean, people used to call me cheap on the team, so I just kind of put a spin on the word, and frugal is efficient. So I want to share roadmaps of athletes that have been efficient and frugal with their careers, both from a capital perspective, but also career management and personal decision standpoint as well.
I love that, man. Like just being a frugal athlete, because I mean, you all come up from different areas, and like regardless of why people spend money, it's like interesting because it's rooted in different things. Sometimes you can have. I always tell people like you get to NFL, it's like all right, don't spend money, don't do this. Like that's what
Yeah,
they tell us, right? But it's like you get there, and guys, it's like this is all they've been waiting for. Like this
facts.
is kind of it, and it's just really based on like what just sheer willpower. Like don't spend it. I don't know what to do. It's like I've been
Yeah,
waiting to do this, right? So like that's why I love the idea of the frugal athlete, where you're talking about education, preparation, and a level of empowering the athlete for
facts.
them to be able to lift the weight themselves and not kind of lean on a financial advisor or whatever case may be. Not to say that professional services aren't great because that's still good, but knowing like having a conversation with a coach that you can like talk to eye to eye is a lot different than just what are you going to say before you go out there. So like kind of having
Exactly.
that background in the financial services when there's somebody that's giving it from a unique standpoint. What impact are you trying to make with the frugal athlete?
So for me, I'm trying to let athletes know that they have leverage. And leverage is the most important thing that you need to have as an athlete, not only while you're playing, but after you're done playing. A lot of times you see players, and then I know you've seen it in the NFL, where they sign the first deal that comes to them because their pockets are low or they're finding themselves in a unique, unfortunate situation. But when you're good with your money, when you're good with your career decisions, you have more leverage to make clearer, sound, and quality decisions on your life. And it gives you more power, it gives you more freedom, and gives you more stability. And whether that's through the information we share or the content or the courses that we have, it's all about leverage. And that starts with making smarter career decisions and making very smart financial decisions, with the capital that you have. Because as an athlete, you have a unique head start. You're making a good amount of money at a very young age, while your peers are doing entry level jobs and or doing grad school, and finding themselves in further debt. Where if you take advantage of the compound interest of the decisions you make now, you'll be good long after you're done playing, whenever that is.
I love that you put that where you just talk about leverage, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
just going through the football ecosystem. Even here at Blue Chip Academy, the idea is to like create desirable assets so you have leverage when you're going to schools and you're making the right decisions. Like make sure that you're like setting the table or setting the chessboard in your favor. So you have leverage
Exactly.
because like everything in the sports game, the odds are against you, regardless if you make it or not. Talk about in the NFL, 26% of the players make it 5 accredited seasons. And they make their money off the other 74 that just kind of get in maybe one day here, one day, 2 weeks here. And it keeps that bottom line keeps going up. But, more and more players are kind of fluctuated out because of the way that it happens or not having leverage in the situation. Because you have to build up as you go. So like here at Blue Chip Academy, we try to get that ingrained in high school when these guys are hearing, like, what is it? You're going to college and you're picking different schools. Like, what is the college ecosystem looking like? Well, I listened to Amobi. He said, like, this is what I would do at UCLA. Maybe a player is looking at UCLA a little bit different and seeing an opportunity that they can create leverage for themselves, right? That's getting in the captain's seat. And that's like the only benefit that you can have in the sports ecosystem. So I love that you said leverage, man. That's all I love that.
No,
Always
thank you so much.
Yeah, no doubt. Always tell young players, like, depending on their size, they should really consider soccer, right? Like,
most definitely.
Like,
it's like the base for all the sports. If you want to be good at football, if you want to be good at basketball, soccer will help you for sure.
100%. What are some key traits for young athletes that they should possess to try their hand at soccer?
Footwork for sure, and then like I would say, mental fortitude, because you just have to have the mindset that you may not get better right away, but you're going to get better eventually. Footwork for sure. Balance is another one. You could be strong as an ox. You could be quick as a rabbit, but if you have balance, you have a little bit of both. And then just being able to, read the game.
That's it, man. You talk about that balance. That's big. We just overall athleticism. We talk about guys being under control. Talk about that with receivers, different guys like that. I'm trying to think of like what positions would be great at making that transition, because it's probably, do you have to be like speed wise, like straightforward? Is it more about lateral movement and just control?
Yeah, it's a combination of both. Yeah, sometimes you're gonna have to be in an open sprint, but it's all about being smart around your movements. You got to go up, back, side to side, diagonal, jump, fall down, get up. So it's a bunch of different movements that you have to always get ready for.
Most definitely. So one thing we say here at the Blue Chip Academy is that use sports as a catalyst to a career that you can bank on. So for athletes aspiring to get into entrepreneurship, what are some action steps that they can take or still take while they're playing?
I would say read, get your information up first and foremost. There's a couple books out there that I would highly recommend, Traction being one of them, and just read. And then from there, start, because everyone has a great idea, but if you don't start, it's going to be trial and error. You got to fail forward. I think that's the biggest thing, and then go from there.
I love that. Fail forward. And I do like Traction. That's a great book. If you're trying to get into entrepreneurial lifestyle and different things like that, good balance, and you're getting your traction and everything moving forward. So where do you see the Frugal Athlete 10 years from now?
Hopefully we're going to have a collaboration with you at some point. But Frugal Athlete 10 years from now, I think we're going to be like the combination of Players Tribune, Business Insider, and Penny Hoarder, where you come to Frugal Athlete and it's a one-stop shop of all financial literacy, all personal finance, all money management information, just from an athlete lens. So, athletes are natural trendsetters. So if athletes can talk about financial literacy, I don't want to say make it cool, but make it more appeasing to learn. We're able to share more about, some of the things that we want to provide. We're not going to be catered strictly and solely to athletes, but we're going to use the athlete sports lens to, kind of get our point across as it pertains to different financial literacy topics, different financial literacy themes, and hopefully, spread the good word, spread the good gospel as it pertains to, personal finance.
Absolutely. That's amazing. We'll definitely have an LIG Sports Group Blue Chip Academy by Frugal Athlete stuff coming up, because it's all about creating leverage, being a desirable asset throughout this whole football ecosystem, sports ecosystem, and using sports as a catalyst to a career that you can bank on. So I really just thank you, Amobi, from the Frugal Athlete, coming on and just sharing his journey through soccer, right? Like, that's a little bit different from football, but like the thing is, the journey to success is still intentional, right? Like, understanding that you have to have your ducks in a row, understand that you have to be mature in your sport, understanding that it's not just about the physical aspect, it's also about the mental of the game. Understand where you're trying to go and take advantage of this unique standpoints and the unique road that you're traveling, right? That you can bank on, that you can set yourself up for your transition out of the game, right? Amobi made some great points just about entrepreneurship and what you need to do while you're still playing, and like knowing yourself, understanding that there's benefits to being frugal. Once we talk about capitalizing all the time, we talk about capitalizing, getting there, but once you get there, right? Like even myself, I got to the NFL, and there's still stuff that's new, right? You dive in, you like everything you can buy, you start getting and different things of that nature, but understanding that the education and protection and just for yourself can empower and give you leverage for their future. So really appreciate that. You guys subscribe that. We'll leave the link to the Frugal Athlete. They have some courses on there for you guys to take. First 5 mistakes rookies make, and some other things on there. You guys check that out. Like and subscribe to this video. And again, we got the recruiting and football business masterclass that we'll put in the link below. And again, just thank you, Amobi, for coming on, sharing your blueprint to success, man. Very insightful and very interesting.